Everybody, thank you. Welcome to the council meeting, and we'll start with our karakia.
Kia tau ngā tanga atu mea ngara, ke ronga I tēnā a tātou, ke mahia te tua ma kihiki, kia toi te kuku, toi te mana, toi te araha, toi te reo Māori, kia tūturu, kia whakamoa, kia tēnā, huie, tākia.
Well, I'm going to start with something a little bit different. We're actually going to spend a few minutes today farewelling Bruce Pauling, who is retiring from the manager of the Wairarapa Road Safety Council. And we want to do this on live streaming simply because Bruce has done such a great job, not only for council but for the community as a whole. And the end of this, this is really an end of an era, I guess, as far as the council's relationship with the Wairarapa Road Safety Council. No way are we ending that relationship, which has been strong ever since the Road Safety Council was established back in 1988. But we're going to miss Bruce, who's had a very long and distinguished stint in the role of manager of the Road Safety Council, and that's now coming to an end. I know, Bruce, from talking to you plenty of times, you're more of a doer than someone who revels in the spotlight. But it would have been very remiss of us as council to let you step back from the Road Safety Council without taking the opportunity to say a huge thank you to you for the work you've done. Bruce, you've been a wonderful ambassador in the role for Masterton and the Wairarapa, and indeed over the whole of the country. It would probably take most of the day to talk at any length about the positive stuff Bruce has achieved as manager of the Wairarapa Road Safety Council. And in former Masterton District Councillor Fraser Mailman, and now chair of the Road Safety Council, we have someone who's probably better placed to give us some sort of insight into that anyway, and I'm going to ask Fraser to speak very shortly. I will though mention initiatives like the Community Driver Mentor Program, the SAD program, which is for Students Against Dangerous Driving, an initiative which stressed the importance of motorists complying with seatbelt rules, especially as regards to children. And of course the annual Road Safety Week, which among other things celebrates our road safety heroes, like our emergency services, the medical staff, and very importantly, our volunteer driver mentors, who are such a vital part of the Community Mentor Driver program. Bruce, our councillors and staff are hugely appreciative of the support you have given us over the years. It's been hellish comforting to know we've had a person of your experience and calibre to call on whenever anything to do with road safety is being discussed. The fact you have always been accommodating with your time, have always been easy to deal with, and have always gone about your work with a sense of humour has made our relationship not only constructive, but really enjoyable as well. We are all going to miss you for sure. I'm now going to make a small presentation as a mark of our appreciation, and then ask Fraser to say a few words as well. Bruce, this is on behalf of the Council and the community for the work you've done as Manager of the Road Safety Council. I'll now ask Fraser to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you for the short notice that you've given me to say a few words. But if there were two words to sum up Bruce, it would be, in his role as Manager of the Road Safety Council, it would be passion and dedication. And he's shown that through the 11 years that he's been in that role, 9 of which I've been as council rep. And that passion and dedication has seen him deliver so many programs to make people aware of the need for road safety. And one of the driving forces is to keep that the road toll down, and that drives him and Holly in the work that they do. Bruce and Holly were awarded the Cedric Rogers Award for their dedication to the road safety work in 2022. And I know that's an honour they both cherished. But also, in terms of another honour that he received, was from the Civic Awards from the Masterton District Council for the work that he did in implementing the community mental driving program. That came out of the failed social sector trial, and when I approached Lynn and got Bruce in, he took it up with a passion. And to this day, we've been going 6 years. We started with one car. We've now got 5, 3 of which are attached to colleges. We're working with the police and young offenders. We're working with refugees. So it has taken on an immense role within the community. So, and now we have over 400 people who've got their restricted driver's licence who wouldn't have had the opportunity because of various circumstances within their family situation. So, Bruce, I've got to commend you for the work you're doing. Bruce has brought his retirement forward so that he can accommodate the new Waka Kotahi, or they reduced the funding so that to ensure that there's continuity for the program. He's brought his retirement forward early, and then to allow Holly to continue in her role as a road safety coordinator. So that's the sort of passion and dedication we talk about. So, Bruce, on behalf of the Road Safety Council, I wish you all the best. I'll be saying a few more words later at another event, but yeah, wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gary. Thanks for those words. Fraser, thanks for the words. And I spoke to several councillors on the way in. You're right, Gary. I'm not great at being in the spotlight at all. I've got better over the years with public presentations and things. Basically, I'm blown away of this morning tea and the acknowledgement and the gift, and so I'd like to thank everybody here. Thanks so much for that acknowledgement. I just want to say that for the last 11 years, any words sort of directed at me and the good work I've done should be echoed with my colleague. I'm the boss, but I prefer to call Holly a colleague. And when I leave it in really, really good heart. She's been sort of responsible for at least half of all the campaigns, and we do it. Our why is because we are passionate about it, and we want to lessen the trauma around road safety crashes. Not only just for the reasons behind sort of the economic sort of bad outcomes, but it's all about the trauma for our local whānau and our community. So that's why we do it. We've had a lot of fun on the way. And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from Fraser, and he's been incredible in guiding us, especially around governance and processes, which, to be fair, I wasn't that flash when I first took on the role. So Fraser, thank you for your guidance and wisdom, and I think that leaving the Road Safety Council, I leave it in good heart. Fraser's will be around for another wee while. He hasn't set a date when he's going to leave, but so that might be another decade, who knows. I just wanted to say thank you very much to Council for their support. We couldn't have got our campaigns and programs up and running without your support, especially in the last 6 months, which was rather challenging, and we're a bit nervous and anxious waiting to see what would unfold, but this council and indeed the other 2 councils are supporting us, so I'll be leaving in good heart that Holly has enough funds moving forward. She may tap you on the shoulder moving forward, as I have done. So, and just briefly, I won't go on because I realise that the timetable is short, but it wasn't until I started, I came back here as a traffic officer after doing my traffic officering stuff in Wellington, and there was a reporter from the Times 8 asked me, you know, what what was I doing, what was I looking forward to, and I said something trite back then, like I wanted to make a difference. But thinking back, that actually was the driving force, and I started touching base a lot more with council over that enforcement period, but it wasn't until these last 10 years that I realised, oh my God, the pressures upon councillors and the staff that work for councils. You guys are everything to everybody, and you know, you may get a few more complaints outnumbering the letters of congratulation, and it's not until you actually work closely with councillors and council staff members, and I must say a huge thanks to Kane Jackery and the roading team. They've been incredibly supportive as well. So no, my hat's off to you people, and I was talking to Stella earlier on, and there's a why. Everybody is here in this room to make a better for communities, and I guess in my own small way I was doing that too. So look, again, I was a bit embarrassed, but very grateful for the words from everybody today. I shall miss it, and I'll stand back and watch my fantastic colleagues sort of take it to another level too. So again, thank you all, and we'll see you around. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And while I'm here, just a quick hello to Holly. And Holly, I know that you're going to just step into these shoes, no problem, and we'll be looking forward to working with you as well. Okay, we now take a short couple of minutes break, and we'll be back into our... Before we resume our meeting, there's no apologies, and we then move to the public forum, and we have Lynn Patterson to speak in the public forum. Lynn, you know the rules. What can I read them out to you?
I might have forgotten them by now, Mayor Gary. Kia ora tātou. It's good to be here today to speak to the agenda item, Local Water Done Well. As you're well aware, the last major local government reforms were undertaken about 35 years ago, focusing on reducing 850 borough and county councils down to 86. Local Water Done Well is transformational, bigger than the late 1980s. This massive change is also a massive challenge to all councils, but one that has been talked about for many years and one that actually needs to happen. I'm a strong supporter of reform because most councils over the last 40 plus years have collectively failed to provide the infrastructure that is needed through timely renewals or capital investment for growth or level of service. Excuse me. I have read the reports, listened to workshops and council meetings from Masterton, South Wairarapa, Upper Hutt, Wellington, Porirua, Hutt and Masterton around Local Water Done Well. Thank you, Joe. I don't envy the task that you have in front of you and the decisions that you will need to make over the next 6 or so months. I'm not here today to voice what my preferences are, YT, regional or MDC operation or any other options. These are ultimately your decisions. But I am here to say that it is mandatory for the community to be consulted on the delivery model, joint arrangements, and given the quantum of the potential change, that Masterton community deserves to be consulted on more than the 2 options in the resolutions you have before you. The agenda report on page 9 refers to this. Council may decide to, and I quote, Council may decide to include additional options for consultation. And again, it's noted on page 18 under significance, engagement and consultation. The 3rd bill is due in the House in a few weeks, which will provide more detail on economic settings and regulatory framework. Tararua, Horowhenua and Kapiti District Councils are yet to make their decisions. Knowing the finer details of Bill 3 and the position of all councils in a joint arrangement will provide valuable information that is yet not available. You will have more information to consult on as part of your annual plan in March, April 2025. This is the one and only opportunity the community has to have input into these reforms, as these reforms are predominantly legislative. I doubt you will have time, due to legislative timeframes, to take the Water Services Development Plan out for consultation, which isn't mandatory to consult on. And even if you do, the model for delivery will have already been decided and it will be too late to change. So why restrict what they get to view, our community, and form an opinion on? Masterton community deserves better than that. Council's vision is our people, our place, our future, with the first community outcome in the long-term plan being engaged and empowered community. I'll say it again, an engaged and empowered community. How do you empower a community when you don't adequately inform them? No policy, in my view, of this magnitude should be decided by elected officials without the opportunity given to provide full and direct participation to those affected by the policy. Don't wait until the WSDP is published in early September 2025 and wonder why you get some hard questions because the community hadn't been informed, or don't wait till later years when the reality hits household wallets to inform them. Do it now by providing different options and seek their feedback on them. Don't deny them this one and only opportunity to provide feedback. By providing our community with these various options, you will at the very least have informed them and hopefully empowered them. Ngā mihi. Was I within time, Harry?
Thank you, Lynn.
Very good.
Questions for Lynn? No questions? Well, thank you so much, Lynn.
Okay.
Appreciate that. We now we go straight to 7, which is reports for decision. Local water done well, Wellington Region Water Services Delivery Plan, and MAS.
Good morning, kia ora talawhalawa, Your Worship and councillors. I'd like to start this morning just by doing a bit of a recap on the journey in relation to local water done well and what's occurred to get to this point. So Council began work on reform in relation to local water done well in 2022, and this was in preparation for the pending Water Services Entities Act in 2022, which was legislated in 2023. This legislation was repealed by the Coalition Government and replaced with the Water Services Preliminary Arrangements Act, which was enacted in September this year. In preparation for the pending legislation, direction was received from Council to enter a Memorandum of Understanding with the 8 Wellington TAs, the Greater Wellington Regional Council and Horowhenua District Council, and this was to look at a joint arrangement for the delivery of the 3 water services. Soon after, direction was received also to look at an alternative option, which was Wairarapa, the 3 councils, South Wairarapa, Masterton and Masterton, and then some weeks after, Tararua was brought into that frame. An MOU was signed between those parties and 2 separate project teams were set up to consider all of those options. One was working on the Wellington regional model and one on the Y+T, known as Y+T. Within each project, the governance structure included an advisory oversight group, which was made up of mayors, councillors and iwi. Each project team had a steering group, which was made up of our council CEs. Since that time, the project team and MDC officers have conducted 7 workshops with elected members on local water done well. 3 have been dedicated to the MCA and the results of the analysis, and 4 in relation to local water done well options. We've also had 4 workshops with iwi. In addition to the workshops, you have received the following information: the Wellington Recommended Regional Approach Report, the peer review of the network economic modelling, which was incorporated in that report and undertaken by Gravel Road. The peer review was done by Castalia. A response to that peer review from Gravel Road, the Y+T report, the financial analysis of the Y+T, which was an attachment, the financial analysis of Y+T using the network economic model produced by Gravel Road, the detailed MCA analysis, a peer review of the MCA analysis by Castalia, detailed analysis by DIA of MDC, detailed analysis of the Y+T by DIA, an analysis summary sheet, which is on page 270 in the attachments, and some templates that the DIA have produced. I'll just briefly step through the report at a very high level. The purpose of the report is to update Council on developments with the Government's Local Water Done Well programme and to seek direction on which options for a water services delivery model you wish us to develop up for consultation with the community in March next year. As mentioned, the Water Services Preliminary Arrangement Act is now in place. Further legislation is expected in the coming weeks in relation to economic and regulatory oversight, and that is likely to be enacted middle of next year. Stormwater is currently legislated to remain the Council's responsibility, but this is able to be passed over to any external organisation through some commercial arrangement. Wastewater changes are afoot with performance standards in relation to Taumata Arawai's oversight in terms of compliance. The government intent is to replace the National Policy Statement for fresh water with something that brings a bit more of a consistent approach across the country when looking at consent discharges for wastewater from treatment plants. Consultation, an enhanced status quo consultation process must be followed, so that is how we currently operate, with the additions being the changes the legislation is insisting. Joint arrangements are acceptable, and this has been where the majority of our work has been over the last 8 months, focusing on the direction that Council have provided us. Entering joint arrangements will require a number of foundational documents, which will involve reaching agreements by shareholding councils. The analysis, just very briefly, because I know you have a full pack, the Wellington regional option, so you have the report and all the appendices. This model suggests 15 to 17 billion required over the first 20 to 25 years. Establishment costs for MDC would be around 5 million, and that is dependent on how many shareholding councils are within the entity. That excludes costs for phase 2, which are likely to be between 70 and 200,000. Operational costs, there is more work to be done to understand what they look like. The Y+T model, and the DIA analysis in relation to that, establishment costs are around 1.25 million for MDC, operating costs 9.63 million. MDC as a standalone CCO, a single-owned council-controlled organisation, establishment costs 3 million, operating costs 11.73 million. An enhanced status quo, establishment costs around $500,000, operating costs 10.52 million. On page 16, you have the results of the MCA. On page 17, we have the options that we are asking you to consider today, including our recommendations, which are to exit the Wellington region model, to continue with the Y+T model, and to do no further work on the MDC CCO model. I'm happy to take questions now.
Thank you.
Right.
Like with questions from Bianca, and I will ask that, this whole debate has caused a lot of emotion, a lot of passion, and if we could just temper the way that we act in asking the questions. Yes, Councillor Johnson.
Hi, thanks, Mayor. For your report, I've just got 2 questions. When would phase 2 start?
Well, as soon as a decision is made, we would look to form a team and then start working on phase 2.
But wouldn't phase 2 start after consultation?
There is a certain amount of work that you could do in phase 2 regardless of what the final option is.
Because further to Lynn's public forum presentation, what would the implications be if the Wellington model was included in the public consultation?
Well, there'd be implications and an increase of risk for those shareholding councils. They've asked for a decision to be made so that they can firm up the shape of that organisation. Each time a council decides to withdraw, they have to redo a reasonable amount of work.
Would be an unknown for them then, because they wouldn't know whether you're in or out type thing.
That's right, yep.
Yeah. Okay, but phase 2, theoretically, some of that work would start straight away. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Councillor Nelson.
Am I able to make an amendment to the motion now?
Okay.
Can I make an amendment to the motion or the recommendations now?
This is just question time,
So when would I be able to do that?
when it gets to discussion. Yeah, and then the motion would have to be moved first. Councillor.
Maz, thank you very much for your insights there. In the MCA analysis, it has Wairarapa, the 3 councils, was ranked first, and YT was ranked second. So if we get to the stage now with continuing what we do, the Y+T model, and the T decides to drop out in a few weeks' time, I think their decision's in a few weeks' time,
That's right.
it'll be very easy for you to just delete all that out and to give us the standalone 3 councils here, is that right?
Yes.
Questions? Councillor Goodwin.
Just to follow on from the previous question, so if you just deleted it out and come back to us, we would have to decide on whether to proceed without that, is it? Without, say, the T if it dropped out.
Well, the decision in front of you today is to consider the Y plus T model.
So my question to you or to someone else is that if in a couple of weeks the T dropped out, does it come back to us to reassess? For all we know, South Wairarapa might also drop out. We don't know what's happening. So if there's some dropouts, does it come back to us in some short time, presumably, by Christmas, and we get to vote again?
Yeah, we would come back to council on that if T was dropping out, because I think that would change some of their modelling. So I would expect that we'd bring it back to council to inform and to get confirmation that we proceed.
Right, so it's just, of course, I'm going to take another angle out of that this decision in some ways doesn't need. We heard that it would upset our potential partners if we did keep the regional model in, because it would create uncertainty for them. My interest is for our people here, not the other people in Wairarapa. Just another question, it's possibly aimed at David Paris, but I'll give it to you first. The pages 18 and 19 talks about the under financial considerations, the establishment costs. And if I would have thought, looking at projects, I don't know, town halls, whatever, to look at the costs if we agreed to do every one of those, $2.25 million of expenditure, spread over 25 years loan funded as a project only. It's I don't know, less than $10 a year per water connection to hopefully arrive at the right choice. So to me, my query is it valid to say that these establishment costs are relatively insignificant on the scale of expenditure that we have on water, this $410 million asset of ours that we're talking about? So that's a query.
Well, that's for you to make a judgment call on that, but it's important that you understand what the establishment costs are, because eventually someone has to pay for those.
Yes, but they are very small, no matter how you look at it. The other issue is the bill that's coming in. I'll phrase the question. The MCA set out a set of values, etc., to make a decision. Now, not everyone agrees with the values that they arrived at. They are the values of the staff and a couple of elected people. And the bill, my query is that the bill that is coming next month with the regulations will negate some of those value judgments made in the MCA, will they not?
Well, I have not seen the bill, so I don't want to comment on that. But in relation to the MCA, the criterias that we used were canvassed and they were shared and approved by council, and there were 3 or 4 workshops, as I mentioned, in relation to the MCA, and it was peer reviewed. And it's a tool to assist you with your decision making. It wasn't to make a decision.
And yet, it is the only reason cited for withdrawing from the regional model, is that it doesn't comply with the MCA. So
I don't think that's correct, actually, Councillor.
Well,
It's not the only reason.
Anyway.
Do we have any other question? Councillor Leonard.
Yeah, thank you, Maz, and just want to acknowledge all the work that's gone into this and the frustration and the anxiety and the stress, and particularly for you having to lead this with your team. Just a couple of questions. I'm sort of uncertain what consultation is going to look like. Is it going to just be a presentation of what's being put out there at the moment? Will we have time to have information around what joint agreements might look like? Will we have information around more explicit costings? What's your thinking around that?
Karen, are you okay to?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So it's the same as any other consultation that we do that's covered by the special consultative procedure we have to present. In this case, there are specific requirements within that, within the Act around what information is provided as part of consultation, so we'll need to follow those. But we have to present the benefits and disadvantages of each of the models that we're consulting on, and we know that we'll have to do that in a really concise and easy to understand way. So that's what our considerations will need to be, and it will be around the costings and what the model will look like. As to what could be included in any agreement, if there is a joint arrangement that we take in through those negotiations, we can give an indication of those sorts of things that would need to be included further down the track, but we don't know what they are at this point, of course, and that will become clearer as we work through that process through phase 2. But we can give the community a heads up on those things that will need to be included.
Thank you. And in terms of the advantages and disadvantages, they'll be framed up based on the perspective of the various reports we've received, or framed up on the basis of council staff?
So the evidence is in the reports. That's what council staff are making our recommendations based on. So we will take that information that's been provided.
Some of the reports say slightly different things around costs and so forth. So
that's right, and of course there are different approaches. So we would need to be able to, depending on what the models are that we choose to go forward, that you choose to go forward, we would need to take what the information is there, and then what we need to work up to meet those mandatory requirements. Well, that's the work that we'll need to do in between now and March.
thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor Nelson?
Thank you, Maz, for sharing your comment that no one has seen the bill in December, because none of us have. In the MCA analysis, you've got lots of different scenarios in there, and one of them is Wairarapa alone. Why is that one there? And if it is there, why isn't there other options, such as why not have the option without Masterton, or the option without South Wairarapa, or the option without Masterton? Why is the Wairarapa one in there on its own? And why is that other information not being presented to us?
So thank you for the question. There is no other information that there is to present, first of all. When the project team was formed, the initial scope was to look at a Wairarapa option, which was the 3 Wairarapa councils. The Tararua option came in a little bit after that. So we'd already started work on Wairarapa. We ended up looking at the Y+T. That was the brief. There was no brief to look at any hybrid models of what it might look like with 3 less 1. So the 3 Wairarapa, so let's say Tararua and 2 Wairarapa. There was no brief to do that, and very similar with the Wellington region model. They modelled on 10 shareholding councils. They didn't model on 8 less Horowhenua, less Kapiti, or 10 less 3 others, if that makes sense. They followed their brief, which was to look at the 10 only, not a combination.
So do you feel that information wouldn't have been helpful to this decision we're making?
I don't think what I feel is not relevant. The project team delivered on the brief, which was directed to us by our council, and that's the information that you have in the report, and that's the information that we are speaking to today.
So my point is, I've asked several times in emails, workshops, about the viability of the option without Masterton in it, and I'm disappointed that that hasn't been included. That's my comment.
Mayor, would it be fair to say, to follow Tim's comment, that if Taurua, for instance, if we pulled out and the other three councils were left, the viability would be up to them, wouldn't it? We would just then have no decision on what they do. It would be up to them to decide what.
Yes, that's dead right. And I imagine they would just pull together the information and reports completed by DIA to work out what their own scenario might look like.
Any further questions?
No, that's not viability. Viability is how valid the option would be.
The viability, what I mean by viability is that they would, if we weren't there, Tim, the other three councils would have to decide if it was viable for them to go together.
But we need to be able to know, are we the kingpin in the deal? Are we doing the heavy lifting? That's what I would like to know. And if Masterton was put in the scenario, then we would have that information. But we don't have that information. We have one at Upper alone, we have all these other scenarios, but we don't know specifically what it would be like. Please let me finish, Gary. We need to be able to have the option to see what it would look like, Y plus T, without Masterton. We've got it without Taurua, so why can't we have that same information without Masterton? Or, for example, maybe for South Wairarapa District Council today, what it would be like without them. And I'm disappointed that information.
The simple answer to that, Tim, is that that was not the brief that they were given.
But the question was asked, and the opportunity to answer it.
Given my age, it's highly possible I missed the discussion around the brief, but I can never remember us deciding to just do a brief on Y plus T. And even in your report, you've broken it down into other combos.
Only as individual councils.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, I cannot remember that discussion or voting on it's just going to be a Y plus T vote. I thought it was to look at what this will look like for Masterton. And so, yeah. I'm not sure if others can remember.
Councillor Good.
On the subject of viability, there's several decisions accepted on page 17 of your report, 16. You acknowledge that from a financial basis alone, the regional model is the cheapest. And that's, for some people that are only interested in money, that's a very compelling thing. Obviously, it's a different way of looking at it than the MCA does. But on the subject of viability of this entity, there's been numerous emails and...
You have a question, Councillor Watt.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a question about the viability of this model. And it has been said that unless Masterton subsidises these South Wairarapa, Taurua and Masterton, this model, within the first 3 to 5 years or thereabouts, this model is perceived to be not successful. Why isn't such a crucial thing the necessity of our people in Masterton who earn less than any other area that we're joining with? Why does this model seem to need our subsidy to be successful, and why is that not listed in any of your analysis?
I'm really not sure what your question is because... Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Councillor, can you point me to the direction there where we've said that it's not viable? Or is
I'll read it out to you,
Yeah,
if you don't mind. From you to Marama, I would certainly be recommending that we include a clause to prevent harmonisation for at least the first 3 to 5 years. I think 10 years may be too prohibitive, as we want any future water service delivery model to be successful. That's exactly what I'm using.
But you've said, you have, in your statement, it was about it being not sustainable, is what you said, or not viable. I didn't say that.
Well, you said successful.
What I'm saying is that if we were to go with any CCO moving forward, we need to ensure that we set that up for success, that CCO, because they're the same ratepayers. They're the same people funding it. And so we don't want to prohibit or put in all sorts of barriers to make it difficult to work with that CCO. But there is no, as we've seen in these reports, there is no requirement for harmonisation at all.
But it is certainly mentioned very clearly, crystal clearly by you, as to be necessary for the model's success.
This is about ensuring that we don't hamstring a CCO because it will end up back in our lap. And so we want this to be successful for our ratepayers and for our community. That doesn't say that we're going to subsidise our neighbours.
No, that's what your email said. And
that's the way you interpreted it, and I've explained that that's not the case.
If we go back to the report, you can see there is no, we are not making any recommendation around harmonisation, whether harmonisation is a thing that is adopted or not, because that will be up to the shareholding councils to agree and negotiate after a decision has been made with the community.
Can I just share with you, I invite your comment, I'll try and put it as a question.
Yes.
My paranoia that if Masterton, with 10,000 odd connections, joins with 3 other bodies with about, 13,000 connections collectively, we will be a minority, and their interest is to have harmonisation. Ours is very clearly not to. When you're a minority partner, is that a very strong position to negotiate from? I would have thought it's almost impossible.
A key thing there is that if you decide to go with a model that is a CCO, there will be a professional board adopted, and there will be lots of foundation documents which will enable you to set out expectations, all shareholders.
So is that fair to say that the decision won't be in the people of Masterton's hands?
Well, I think
it will be in other hands.
It's pretty clear that any CCO model removes or transfers the immediate control of Three Waters to that entity. The influence from shareholding councils is through the foundation documents and typical corporate shareholder agreements and so on.
I'll take that as an affirmative, that the control for that decision will not be in the people of Masterton's hands. That's very clear, isn't it?
No, you may have misunderstood my answer there, which was an agreement will need to be arrived at by all the shareholding councils prior to the establishment of the entity.
Okay.
There'll also be a shareholder's, I suppose, letter of expectation that goes to a CCO, and part of that will be a statement of intent that comes back to the council of how the CCO will look to operate, and then the councils, the shareholding councils will agree as to whether they accept that or not, or want any amendments. So the letter of expectation from the council is your lever, essentially, to be able to have expectations here put on the CCO.
Right, Councillor Thomas.
My question is, wouldn't Councillor Goodwin's paranoia be applicable whichever model was chosen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson.
Thank you. If there were only 2 options, I feel this report, I'll read you a statement.
Is there a question?
Yeah, there's a question. It's on page 15. One of the principal drivers for change from central government has been council decision making over many years resulted in underinvestment in the water network assets and infrastructure. Elected members have made trade-offs across all services they provide in their communities and have genuinely tried to keep rates affordable. An in-house model would not address that structural issue that central government is trying to address. Failure to address this will result in future generations funding catch-up investments over the years to come. As the writer of this report, do you feel that that statement in there could potentially sway elected members from going down the pathway for an in-house model in favour of the only other model that's potentially being offered, Y plus T? Because the way I read that, it's quite detrimental against the in-house model.
No, I don't feel that. I think there is numerous documents and information for you all to read to assist you in making your decision.
Okay, so why is that paragraph in there? Because the way I read it, it's quite strongly advocating against an in-house model, which is the only other model that would be available to elect the members to choose from.
Well, you could apply that question to any piece of information in this report, and the intent is for this information to assist you in making your decision.
So you have,
The decision is with the elected members, of course.
so you have no issues with that paragraph being
No.
read at all?
No.
Wow.
Mr. Garrett?
If I can assist, I assisted Maz with some of the words in that paragraph, and it is very much articulating what the government's intention in terms of bringing the legislation, the previous government and the current government, in terms of trying to address the issues with investment in water and the water assets. So we're simply in that articulating the government's move to separate waters away from local decision making and making it a corporate model.
What hasn't been articulated in there is the regulations that are going to be imposed upon us to ensure that what has happened in the past doesn't happen again. It's not in that paragraph at all. If I was to read that paragraph there on its own, it's clearly not advocating for an in-house model, and it's giving a good reason not to have it. And it's also not mentioning that regulatory framework that's coming out in December.
We don't have that regulatory framework. We're only assuming it will be something similar to the telecom and the electricity industry regulatory frameworks. But until we see that, we know we're going to have to work under a different model. And the corporate structure of delivery of water services working under that corporate model is what we're assuming is the future.
Yeah, and we know that there's going to be regulation that would not allow us to carry on what we have as we have before, but it's not written in that paragraph. And that paragraph clearly, to me, reads against a standalone model, leaving only one valid model to choose from in the consultation process.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Any further questions? Councillor Goodwin.
My query is over the difficulties of making any choices of which way to go forward because of the difference of, for instance, the Y plus T approach and the Wellington regional approach. And David kindly responded to a query of mine where, as in his words, you can't compare these two models. One is based on the W plus T, is based on LTPs, and we're aware of the weakness of those documents, especially when you go past 3 years.
You got a question, Brent?
Be patient.
No,
The- So I'm inviting, my query is to talk about the difference of the Y plus T and the regional approach, which it seems to me is we're trying to choose between an apple and an orange. It's not apples and apples. So can you talk about the difference of those two models, one being based on an LTP, the regional one, I don't know where it gets its one, but it assumes a very much higher spend catch-up phase than W plus T. So can you just talk about those two models, and maybe several officers could comment on it, because it does touch a lot of ground.
Well, I'm happy to give it an attempt. So the difference is laid out in the documentation, and you do have peer review reports which speak to each of those different models, and you also have the reports from the DIA.
The DIA report, forgive me, but it didn't really dwell on the regional model, did it?
No, it talked to the Y plus T option and Masterton loan. So the regional report, as through workshops and information shared, is based on the network economic model, which is a theoretical, it can be described as a theoretical model based on asset data and information plus economics. The Y plus T model has been worked on the LTP plus some build-ins for potential changes for regulatory requirements.
So vastly different approaches. Back to question, why, from an elected member's point of view, I'm meant to have good information to make decisions, and we had a DIA, quite a detailed report on looking at the W plus T model, but nothing on the regional. Was it overlooked, or was it just an oversight?
The peer review conducted by Castalia was DIA were encouraging that peer review, and it was half funded by DIA, and that was the review of the regional model.
Thank you. Any further questions? No further questions, thank you, Mayor. We now get on to I'm going to move, sorry.
Comments?
Pardon?
We're going to comments?
We then get on to, we will have the comments in the discussion. I'm going to now move the motion. The motion which is on page 6 from 1 through to 7. Have I got a seconder? Seconded Councillor Johnston. And I want to say a few words about the...
Am I able to make an amendment to the motion? When would I do that?
When is the best time to do that? I could get advice from staff on that.
Depends on the nature of the discussion.
A minor addition.
It's a minor addition, then maybe you want to have
How do you know?
discussion first.
Is
If it's minor, then you have discussion first.
Pardon?
If it's a minor amendment, you might want to have discussion first.
Okay, Tim, you could talk about your amendment, yeah.
Yep, the amendment I'd like is I would like to remove, thank you, former Mayor Lynn, for your comments before. I'd like to remove number 5, agrees to exit the Wellington Regional Services Delivery Joint Arrangements. I'd like to do that in light of number 3.
Apparently, Tim, that's not a minor amendment. So I need to get advice on what to do. Where do we go now?
I'll get you standing orders.
Pardon? Okay, we're going to adjourn the meeting for 3 minutes, Tim, just so that we understand
Thank you.
how we deal with it. Thank you. going to ask now to resume the meeting and ask Karen to explain the amendment situation.
Okay. So Standing Order 23.5 talks about amendments that need to be relevant and they must not be direct negatives. So I'll just read that out so it'll be clear, so then, Councillor, you can decide how you want to progress. So proposed amendments cannot be similar to an amendment that's already been lost, that hasn't happened. An amendment cannot be a direct negative to the motion or the amended motion. So reasons for not accepting an amendment can include it's not directly relevant, it's in conflict with a carried amendment, similar to a lost amendment, it would negate a committee decision if made under delegated authority, it's in conflict with a motion referred to the governing body by that meeting, or it's a direct negative. So E and F are relevant there, in conflict with a motion referred to the governing body by that meeting and a direct negative. So the proposal to remove that proposal, the recommendation, suggests it's a direct negative. If it's not, or you wanted to think about an amendment that's not a direct negative, then that can be put. Is that clear?
Sort of.
Sorry.
So, my amendment to remove number 5, you're saying that can't go through based on standing orders?
It depends on what you're proposing to amend it. If it's a similar continue but do something else in addition to, then that is not a direct amendment. But to just remove it would be then actually completely negative to it going ahead.
I suppose my point is that what I'm asking supports was back to number 3, notes that the government intends to introduce further water legislation in December 2024 to be enacted in mid-2025 that will establish the economic and regulatory oversight regime for this water services. So could I say, in light of number 3 above, I would like to see number 5 removed, because it's referring to something else in the same set of recommendations. And if I may add, just on the next page, the combined legislation will set minimum requirements for service delivery models. This includes new economic, environmental and water quality regulations, a new planning and accountability framework, financial sustainability objectives, new statutory objectives consistent with all water providers, and restrictions against privatisation. So number 3, which covers those 5 points, I think supports my wish to have number 5 removed.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor, but what I'm hearing is that you're perhaps suggesting a postponement until that information comes out and then making the decision. Is that correct?
That would be very helpful.
Yes, so in my view that wouldn't be a direct negative if it was framed in that way.
Okay,
So
help me out here, Karen. Help me to come to a way in which we can see what happens in December, which none of us know, including Maz, who acknowledged it when she did her report up there. Help me out. Help me to come up with something that will give us the information that we need to make a better decision, because I feel we don't have the information in front of us today to make the best decision. What's happening in December is incredibly important. None of us know what it is. So why are we deliberately removing an option that would inform us? I can't see any point in it.
Something like agrees to postpone decision making on models to take forward to public consultation until after what it refers to, third piece of legislation is enacted.
Yeah, I would support that.
Actually, it's probably not enacted as in laid into Parliament.
Yeah.
Harriet.
We will, I think, adjourn again for another few minutes while we type this up, if it's okay.
Thank you.
Your Worship.
Yep. Zoom our meeting. Tim, are you happy with that?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Thank you. Have we got a second for the amendment? Second from Councillor Goodman.
Do you mind if we have a look at 6 and 7? Thank you.
Discussions?
Right.
Right.
For the discussion, yes, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, what would the implications of that be, please? If that was successful?
Yes, so the implications really are about the timing and the quantum of work that's required. So water service delivery plans need to be submitted by the 3rd of September. That also includes an implementation plan. So you may think, oh, it's only 2 or 3 weeks, but actually we've already delayed, 2 or 3 weeks. We're coming into the Christmas period. We need to allow for consultation, which is considerable. And also note that the legislation was supported by a team in DIA who were in the former reform team in the National Transition Unit, and they know full well the amount of work required to get these things up and running. And the runway for a stand-up is nothing less than 12 to 18 months. So it's...
Just a follow-up question, if that's right, Gary?
Yes, certainly.
So DIA have been across all the work that's been done to date and have made some assumptions and recommendations and points. If the information that's coming out in December, as Tim's referred to, was relevant to decisions being made now, or would impact severely decisions being made now, well, surely DIA would have said, hold off everybody, because any decisions you're going to be making now will be affected by the new legislation.
Yes, that's right. And they did share some information, or whatever they could, in that the last workshop that we had with them. And one of the key pieces of information was that harmonisation is not going to be legislated.
So
it was mostly around it's about the regulatory and the Comcom stuff.
So my question is, a direct question, is this just delaying a decision and having no benefit?
I think that's a question really for Councillor Tim, who has put this resolution up. It's not a question for officers.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be my question.
Is that a question for me? I'm happy to
Well, it's
answer.
not. No, it's rhetorical, really, Tim, because you've said how you feel about everything, so you've answered it previously anyway.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, you've said why you want to delay it.
Yeah.
So my question was of staff, is there value in delaying it? Will the information that we receive in December make a difference to our decision today?
Okay, further discussion. Councillor Gould.
Just a question, if there is pressure on staff, which is very real with Christmas break, surely we have the ability to pull on a bit of outside help, which we do on many things.
I think it's worth noting that it's not just the pressure on staff, but BAU needs to operate as well. It's fine to bring consultants in, but there is expertise internally that needs to be drawn on.
But my query is, and as one that, not that I would ever try and attack, how much we spend on staffing and that, but we can bring in, there are outside people who we can bring in and help you guys if needed, and I won't be standing there criticising it.
Thank you, Councillor Gould. Councillor Councillor Lennox.
In response about implications, the implications are that we would be going into a decision without all the information that we need. That information's coming to us in December. Why would we ignore it?
Thank you.
We don't know what the information is. Let's wait and see what it is, and it's clearly important because it's mentioned in this report several times.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Councillor Lennox.
Just a question around, if Tim's amendment doesn't go forward, around the consultation for our community. So what implications would there be if we were to add some other options into the consultation choices, I guess? Please. like adding the regional model as a consultation option for.
I asked that earlier.
I think just to explain, so part of that response from Maz was around the timing that we are working with. So we're working backwards from that 2nd of September, where we have to provide the implementation plan and the model and everything as a package to the Department of Internal Affairs. So working back from that, we have to obviously develop all of that work. Contrary to Councillor Goodwin was saying about being kind to our other territorial authorities, it's actually around having certainty at an earlier stage as to who's in the model and who's out of the model, so that you can actually work up what those finances are. If we don't know that until we've gone out to consultation, which is why our recommendations are written in such a way that it's if you're choosing to continue in with the Wellington model, then you wouldn't be looking at doing that work on the Y+T model, because it's very difficult to be able to provide all of that information on all of the models to consult on, and then not have a response back from the community until May, June this year, and then be able to work up all of that information that needs to be provided to go into the September, which is why the recommendation is, if you want to participate in a joint arrangement, then on the evidence that we have, our recommendation would be to take Y or Y+T forward. So it's simply a matter of timing. We have no choice in that timing. It's what the DIA have provided. And similarly, just responding to what Mazza said, the DIA are aware that it's not just us, as you know, the other Wellington regional authorities have been making those decisions. If, in my view, if the information was critical, they would not have proceeded with that decision-making that's going to come in that third bill.
Thank you, Chair.
Your Worship, councillors, my question is a procedural question over the recommendations that have been put to this table. And the procedural question around recommendation 5, there's been an amendment put, correct, Councillor Nelson? My procedural question is, isn't that amendment supposed to be voted on before you stop the recommendations, voting on the recommendations? Do you take that amendment out and get everybody to read it and then vote on that recommendation as to whether or not the table will accept that amendment to the recommendation?
That's absolutely correct. This is the discussion before the vote, so you may require, now when discussion is complete on this proposed amendment, that a vote is put to whether to proceed with that amendment.
And it's by majority.
My thing is, in respect to what you're saying, Tim, but, I'm echoing that DIA are waiting on a decision from not just us, but all the other councils involved. Greater Wellington, or the Wellington Regional, are waiting for a decision on their model at this time. And just to echo what Karen said, is how can what's happening here be critical to what decision we're making today when they're asking for everyone to make a decision today?
Can I respond?
Yeah,
If I can just read again what's in this very report. The combined legislation will set minimum requirements for service delivery models that include new economic, environmental and water quality regulations, a new planning and accountability framework, financial sustainability objectives, new statutory objectives consistent for all water providers, restrictions against privatisations. Perhaps not the last one so relevant, but those 4 things are incredibly relevant for us making this decision going forward. I don't know why we're fighting it. It's just a little bit of time.
I might say from my point of view that I believe we do have enough information in front of us to make a decision today. We've already pushed this back a couple of weeks. We've got 500 pages worth of information. I go along with the fact, and I remember the DIA guy actually saying here, one of the DIAs saying in the meeting in Carterton that the next decisions, and I asked a question in Carterton if it was going to, what would be the likely influence of the next decision being made by government, and they didn't expect it to be great at all. They expected it to be more just procedural stuff. So, I've got to the feeling now myself, I've read all the stuff, I've talked to other mayors, I've been at so many meetings. I believe that we are in a position to make a decision. I think that it would be unfortunate if we didn't, because it would move it forward to a point where we can start really getting going on where we go next. And so I'm opposing this amendment. Councillor Hallinan.
Just a couple of points. I agree with the points made around lack of information. My understanding is we don't know the nature of our assets and the nature of what needs to be fixed, and we don't know the standard that we need to fix them to. And yet we're expected to develop a water services delivery plan. Tell me if I'm wrong, Maz, by the 2nd of December? September, next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And the implementation of that plan is expected to take place when?
Well, that all has to be laid out within the plan itself.
But it won't be straight away, obviously.
There's been an expectation that we will be working towards
Over a 2 or 3 year period.
30 June 2028 is the final date.
But the date for the water services delivery plan is September 26.
No, September 25.
25, sorry, yeah.
So we've got about 8 months.
So for me, I just need to re-emphasise that there's still a huge amount unknown, and if we don't know our starting point, we don't know our end point, kind of hard to develop a plan in my view. And I'm not being cynical about not knowing our data, our starting point, but it's been expressed multiple times. We don't really know the nature of our water infrastructure, and we don't know what government is going to be imposing on us. So it's kind of very difficult, in my view, reckless to be rushing into a decision, a quick decision that's kind of narrow. Perhaps instead of waiting and pursuing Councillor Nelson's amendment, that we introduce a second amendment that includes consulting on 3 options. And we will know then by today if you won't have to have that wait time until the regulations are known. I think the challenge is are we consulting on 2 options, or is it right to consult on 3? So I'm not sure what the procedure is, but I would actually like to move a new amendment or a new motion, or add to the motion, amend the current motion, so that we explore 3. And can I talk to that, Mr. Mayor, or is it just questions?
First of all, I think we need to sort out what the amendment is, and then we'd have to make sure that passes the test.
Yeah, okay.
And then we would have a seconder and then discussion.
You have to decide what's in the
Yeah.
Third option, regional.
We need to decide.
Yeah, the regional.
Moved and seconded, if there's no...
So you're saying that we vote on this?
That's correct, isn't it?
Good one.
Yes, it does sound like Councillor Helena's amendment is another direct reversal, so we need to finish this amendment, so this needs to be put and decided on,
Okay.
and then we can perhaps turn to Councillor Helena.
Just a procedural question. If the original motion is not passed, then what?
So,
We've already moved the motion.
yeah.
No, just in terms of process on this one.
Well, if you want to put your amendment to that motion, we can do that before we take a vote on the original motion, otherwise that may proceed. Yeah.
No, but if the original motion is not passed, then is it possible then to put another motion?
It would depend on what didn't pass.
Well, it's not approved. The current motion is not.
There are a number of parts to it, so it would depend on what happened with the voting.
So that all the parts need to be approved? If only one part's not approved, then the whole motion is not approved?
No, it would depend on which particular part has failed as to what happens next.
Okay.
Councillor Goodwin?
Well, I've heard quite a bit about how inconvenient this would be for some people if we do delay this a month or so, this decision. And I accept that inconvenience, but I think the thing that needs to be remembered is that the intent of this inconvenience is to keep alive the possibility of our households having what is, on the bottom of page 16, the cheapest option alive. And to just keep it alive for another month or so, to me, seems a very desirable thing to do.
Thank you, Councillor Goodwin. So to proceed, sorry, Councillor Tudor.
We're allowed to comment?
Yep.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. First off, I'd like to thank Les for the work that they've done with my Plus T. Then I'd like to speak about the amendment that Tim's put forward. I guess I'm not in favour of the regional model, but I would vote in favour of supporting your amendment, because I believe that you have the right for not only yourself but for the people of Masterton to be have choices. And so although I don't support the model, I think that other people have a right to their choices. And if anyone can give me a reason besides the timing as to why I should change my mind, I thought I'd just stand and tell you why I would support Tim's amendment. Also, we're in this situation because of what previous councils have done in terms of our water system. And so I think that what the overhaul that we're having to our local water done well is a good thing, and we need it for our people, so that their future is better. We just have to think about what the Coburn families had to look through to know that that's part of our water, even though it's wastewater. That's about all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Now, again, do we go? We're putting just this particular.
Put the amendment. Yep.
Putting the amendment, which is also we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4. That becomes 5 up there.
Yes.
And then we've still got 6 and 7 in.
No, 6 and 7 have been removed.
6 and 7 have been removed. So we're going from 1 to 5. 1 to 4 with that being 5. Is that right?
The original motion has 1 to 7.
Yep.
Where Councillor Nelson's amendment is to delete 5, 6 and 7 and replace those with the
new 5.
Oh,
So I
okay.
think we just need to deal with Councillor Nelson's amendment, and then we go back to the whole
Discussion.
motion.
Okay, so we're moving to 1 to 4, Councillor Nelson's amendment, and 5. That's what we're voting on now. Everybody happy with that?
No.
Just 5.
Just 5.
We're just voting on Councillor Nelson's amendment.
Oh, just voting on the amendment now, okay. All right, I'll ask those in favour of the amendment, raise your right hand. Those against? The amendment is lost.
Division,
Division is...
Division, is that councillor?
that's just what the name's recorded.
Thank you. Okay, we now go back to the original amendment, which I have moved and Councillor Johnson has. Oh, does Councillor Lena? Councillor Lena, do you want to put another amendment?
Yeah, well, my preference is that we go to consultation with 3 options. A Wellington regional option, which is the big package, a Warapa plus Tararua package, which is the medium package, and we do it ourselves package. And because of the significance of this issue, environmentally, but also financially for everybody in town, given the complexity of the issue, I'm very keen to get the best possible feedback from our community on this issue. And I think we owe it to the community to give them the approved 3 broad options. The regional Wellington option has been approved by DIA as sustainable, effective. The Warapa plus T has been, and we're allowed to go it alone. Personally, I haven't made up my mind because there's so many complexities in this space, and my mind will predominantly be determined by what is in the best interest of the ratepayer. But not necessarily just that. But because of those 3 reasons, I think we need to present our community with 3 options. So procedurally, I'm not sure what we do. I sort of support Councillor Nelson's motion, but I don't like the fact that we're going to have to wait to make that decision, because I'm conscious of the pressure on staff. So for me, whatever the procedure is, I would like to move that we consult on those 3 options as opposed to the 2 that are identified in this motion, whatever the procedure is.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What would happen if Wellington was introduced into consultation package and then in November Kapiti and Horowhenua had decided they had exited the Wellington Regional Plan?
Well, the look and feel of that model will change. So then you would be saying you are consulting on a model of, say, 6 shareholding councils.
So you would still consult on an adjusted Wellington Regional model? If it was agreed today that you consult on 3.
And I have checked this with the DIA previously. If then the model is significantly different to what we might have consulted on, we may then need to go and reconsult again with the community before proceeding with that.
And just another follow-up question, if that's right. I asked about phase 2, when does that start? We've got costings for phase 2 with the Wellington Regional Model and costings for phase 2 with WMT. You said there's a need to get straight into that work. So in the meantime, would you be doing planning work on both models, and also would there be costs for both?
Yes.
Councillor Goodwin.
So from what I understand, what Councillor Helena is suggesting is we simply remove 5 from this amendment, and then the regional model is included, is it?
Number 6.
Is it
He's changed it.
Yes, so that again would be a direct negative for an amendment. So my suggestion is that 5 is put, and if that is lost, then necessarily then it can be added in to what's remaining.
Yes, Councillor Mayor.
I'd support that. It's essentially what I asked for about half an hour ago, to have that option for the regional model, and hopefully that will get across the line. I totally agree. 3 models, the regional one, the cheapest model, the middle option, and the in-house model. Why not give our community option to consult on that? And if we pat ourselves in the back by throwing in the council-controlled organisation, it's so similar in many ways to our own in-house model, and that's the only other one I can see us consulting on. If we add a third one in, if we pat ourselves in the back because of that by giving them 3 options, you're essentially giving them 2.
Just to clarify, Councillor, that wasn't the proposal, the amendment that you put. The amendment that you put was to delay, which is not a direct negative, because then that decision can be brought back to the table after that information is provided. What Councillor Helena is suggesting is a direct negative to 5. If 5 is lost, then that additional model can be then added into the consultation.
Thank goodness these meetings are recorded, because originally I asked for number 5 to be removed, and then the amendment that I put forward was under your advice to at least get a delay in. So thank you.
I'm sorry if I misinterpreted your amendment, Councillor. It would have been appropriate to discuss that before the amendment was put.
No, I was fine with the amendment based on what you said before about the contradiction. So the amendment to me was a compromise.
Councillor Hyde.
Can I ask how long consultation is going to take, please? The reason I ask it is that if we don't hurry up and make our decision, the regional people are going ahead, and we will be up for a share of the 35 million for the IT, and we'll also be up for the share of the work that's to be done that they're going ahead and doing. So I need to know how long consultation is going to take. Because if you think consultation is going to take another 4 months, we're in trouble.
So, Councillor, the consultation is through the special consultative procedure. That does require a minimum of a month's consultation out with the community. We will need time to develop that information. We are proposing that we go out to consultation alongside our annual plan, as the other regions are also proceeding on that basis. Usually with the annual plan we have consultation in March and April, and then we usually have hearings and deliberations through May, and then, as you know, deliberations and decisions in June. That would be too late for us for this, so we would be proposing to bring that decision making through to May. So it would be quite a compressed time frame, and at that point, hopefully by the end of May, we would have a decision on what needs to go into the plan. So then we have June, July, August to work up the information.
Can I just... Well, I think I oppose this amendment myself, because for the simple reasons I've just mentioned. These other councils are moving on with their decisions, and we've come here today to make our mind up whether we stay with, go ahead with the regional one, or we go with white plus T. So I'm so opposed to any amendment.
Just a point of order, that's not my understanding of what this decision is about. We are not deciding which model to proceed with. And you yourself, and please tell me if I'm wrong, we are deciding which models to take out to consultation with our community. We're not making the decision today, I think.
So
again, is it correct?
Today's decision, what we're going out to consult with the community on.
Yes.
That's right. So it's not, we're not deciding today whether we are Y plus T or whether we're deciding today whether we exit the Wellington race.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah. whether we, and what preferred options we go and consult with the community upon.
So,
Yep.
given that, I just wonder if it's appropriate for your help with Tom to put that motion together as we did with the last one, so that we can have a vote on it.
Was it a negative?
The proposal is a direct negative. So effectively the resolution in 5 is to not take that forward for consultation. To suggest to take it forward to consultation is a direct negative. So it can't be put through an amendment.
It's a small direct negative. It doesn't really
It's
change
quite a
it.
significant direct negative, I think you'll find, Councillor. So the answer procedurally is to put that motion. If the motion fails, then it can be included for consultation. It needs to be put and voted on.
Councillor Bowyer.
I'd just like to note that I'm actually quite happy to vote on the original recommendation.
Thank you. Well, we're now at the point where we do go back to the original.
If there's enough.
The original motion, which was moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Johnson, which is 1 to 7. We'll now have discussion on that. I'd like to start that by first of all saying that I do believe we have enough solid information to make that decision. I think it's important that we stress that we're making the decision for us, and whilst we're considering other options, looking at partnering with other councils, this decision has to be what's best for our ratepayers. I don't think we should be influenced by decisions made or about to be made by other councils. This is our decision. We make a decision and then the other councils have to live with it, basically. That's the way it is. To cut straight to the chase, I'm convinced that our council should opt out for the Wellington Regional proposal and take the Wairarapa plus Tararua option forward, along with our current water services provisions. For me, the regional council proposal just has too many red flags flying over it to make it desirable. First of all, we don't know how many councils are going to be part of that entity. The substantial set-up costs are likely to face those councils which are part of it, and the likelihood of the scale of the problems in places like Wellington City, Porirua and Lower Hutt being given greater priority than those in Masterton is a real problem for me and when it comes to the discussion. We have not got anything like the problems they've got, and when they're prioritising work for that entity, I'd be very surprised if we're not down the bottom of the list. There'll be others which will be touched on by other speakers, but those are the top of the list for me. There's been talk too about going alone. Frankly, I see that option as having more red flags than even the regional proposal. Not only do I don't think it stacks up economically or sustainability-wise, but I've no doubt the big risk I think with that would be very difficult to attract quality staff to run the operation. I mean, at the end of the day, people who are highly qualified in the water field are going to be looking for the safer options, and I just don't believe that going alone would attract people of high calibre. I certainly think too that the ratepayers would question the wisdom of us going alone when the government are obviously hell-bent on having partnership models run our water services. I want to say though that I'm not suggesting that the Wairarapa Tararua entity doesn't have question marks hovering over it. I think it does. But as I said before, today's decision is all about deciding what's best for Masterton and ratepayers. And I believe that when it comes to the pluses and minuses, that particular proposal wins hands down. And I think there are a couple of things I want to mention in terms of the pluses. For starters, I think there's real comfort in working alongside neighbours with whom we've already got strategic alignment around initiatives such as water resilience and storage. It means we understand each other's strengths and weaknesses in the water field much better than what we would if we were in with the other bigger councils over the hill. The establishment costs are going to be considerably less than they would be with the Wellington Regional model, and once the entity's up and running, you'd have to think that the size of the operation would open up greater opportunity for innovation and cost efficiencies. The smaller entity, for me, would allow greater accountability from councils. the entity would be big enough and attractive enough to retain many of the quality water staff, service staff currently working within our councils, and I think that's very important. And the other thing that is important to me is that it does appear, and Joe and Robin will obviously speak to this, but it does appear that the Wairarapa plus Tararua entity has the support of iwi from all over our region. And they're going to have a huge part to play in helping the entity quickly develop an operating model which is fit for purpose. And having the iwi support right from the word go, I think, is obviously going to be a huge help. And I think it's encouraging too to have that report from the Department of Internal Affairs which said the case for the Wairarapa Tararua entity was, and they used the words compelling. And if the councils, and that I think is huge and should be taken. There's a lot of benefits. I've got a number of benefits listed here that have been put in these papers. You've all seen them. I won't go over them. But to me, the DIA report in particular was a tribute to the professionalism of those who worked on the Tararua, the Wairarapa plus Tararua model. Robin's here, Maz and co, and those words from the DIA certainly give me extra confidence that our ratepayers will be best served by heading in that direction. So that's how I feel. I'm really strongly in favour of that. And Bex, would you like to talk as the second?
Sure. I support exiting the Wellington Joint Services Arrangement, but rather than focus on the negatives of the Wellington model, I'd rather focus on the positives that I believe are obvious for the Wairarapa and Tararua model, and they're in no particular priority, in order of priority, but one is lower establishment costs. They're a fifth. The local W&T model, they're a fifth of the Wellington model establishment costs. Phase 2 planning costs. The Wellington model costs are 5 times higher. You enter into the Wellington model straight away with $2.6 billion worth of debt, whereas Wairarapa and Tararua combined is 5% of that. We still have ample borrowing headroom as a Wairarapa plus Tararua or Wairarapa model, which we could, if we wanted to, spend on other capital projects in other areas. Local decision making is really important to me. A board, I believe, from elsewhere working on a vast region and number of TAs will not be familiar with our needs locally and our issues and the makeup of our community. W&T offers local prioritisation. I too, like Gary, am worried that we'll be waiting in line for work to get done and responses to be made. Local staff and expertise and resources are critically important. The ability to recruit locally, have people move here and work for our water services, and secure technical expertise here in our region rather than over the hill. I also believe that local resources would allow for more efficient response times and turnaround for service maintenance and repairs. The W&T entity aligns perfectly with the iwi geographical boundaries, so our iwi partners would have better and fair representation on a Wairarapa and Tararua based entity, and there would be fewer councils to negotiate and work with, which will simplify the process, and we'll all have the common ground, which is the goal of having a better Wairarapa in mind. And the other plus, I think, with the local model is our neighbours will be our partners, and I think this bodes well for the future and amalgamation and better outcomes for our region. So I support the recommendation today.
Thank you, Councillor Goodwin.
I've just had a very long and compelling case for one model, but I have to repeat that that is not what we're deciding on today.
I wasn't. I was wanting to take it forward.
We're deciding on what models to take forward, and I totally respect your right to make those judgments about that model, but I believe someone has to ask the community and give them an opportunity to express their view. They might not agree with you, and I know that might be intimidating, but that is our right. Our role is to take this out to the community and get their feedback. And Marama doesn't like that model either. But put it out before the people and see what the people say, and then we make our decision. We seem to be afraid to hear from the public.
Thank you, Councillor Goodwin. Councillor Nelson.
I didn't realise we were here to share what our preferred model was, and I don't have a handwritten list of notes to support the model that I am in favour of, but I am really surprised at those comments we just shared. This is about, as Councillor Goodwin said, what we're doing moving forward, what we're giving our community the option to discuss or to want to put forward. Please let me finish. Don't interrupt me, Gary. You seem to have a predetermined preference already to go with one particular model. Well, that's what you just shared, and you've just shared as well, Councillor Johnson.
We're going out with two, Tim.
No, you've just shared, you shared in here why the in-house option wasn't a good one.
Yeah.
You shared why you think the local water done well option's a good one. You're predetermined already and what's going to happen. And I don't think that's what we're here for. In fact, I know it's not what we're here for today. We were here to share with give our community the opportunity to consult on options. Now we have two, it would have been great to go with three. Like Marama, I'm not a fan of the regional option, but I still feel our community should have been given the opportunity to do that. And what we've done today is we've withdrawn them the right to do that.
We haven't voted yet.
See?
Councillor Nelson, I'd like to just answer that by saying I know damn well why we're here. We're here to go what we're taking out to consultation. But when we're talking about what we're going out to consultation, what I'm saying is that I don't believe we should be taking the Wellington Regional Model out for consultation, and that's what I said.
No. Well, again, fortunately, these meetings are recorded. You went through a list of reasons why
we shouldn't take
why the Y plus T option is the best one, and you also shared why the in-house model isn't the right one.
Yep, absolutely, and I believe that that's exactly what I was meant to do. So we look on it differently. Okay, further, David, do you want to say something, David?
Well, it's been quite a debate, isn't it? Well, we're up to about 11:30. I didn't think it would take this long. I knew it would be very challenging, but we all know today's model's not working. Throughout the country, we've known that for years, and this is certainly one way as a start of moving on. I believe that we should go without the regional. We shouldn't be looking at the regional, and I'm voting for it. I also am very happy that the iwi have declared that they're very keen to follow through, and as Gary said, you're a very important part of the process. And this, the most important thing of the lot, this is intergenerational. It's not about us, it's about the people ahead of us. And I look forward to seeing the result of the vote.
Okay, Councillor Bayer.
Certainly I'm very happy around number 5, agreeing to exit the Wellington Water Regional Service delivery arrangements. I believe long term the benefits will not be for our region. I believe going forward we will have options put to us that are more to what we want to do as a region. Just reiterate, I think we're going to be able to partner with people who economically will be very important to this region going forward, and we need to build relationships. So I'm extremely comfortable with number 5 exiting the Wellington region.
Thank you. Any further? Councillor Nelson.
Just a reminder, in the last council, we disestablished shared services because we were totally incapable of working together across the councils. Now we're looking at a much bigger thing in water, and all of a sudden it's going to work. I really question that.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Any further discussion? Councillor Lennox.
Thank you. Just been listening and digesting today, because this has been a mammoth of a project for all of us involved, and I know that we're just normal members of the community. We're not experts in this, right? So it's been tough, and it's on our heads to decide what we do going forward around the regional model. I'm not comfortable with the 2 options, to be honest. I feel like our community deserves more options to consider. the people I've spoken to and the public actually, in fairness, a few have an idea, but majority of the people don't understand it much, I guess. It's a big thing to take on board, so we're in a tricky decision. But as much as I don't favour the regional model, I do believe it would be good to give that option to our community to speak to, talk to, discuss with us. If we were to do that, I would really like to see some proper kind of educational workshops out in the community. I know that's a big ask, but as Lynn, ex-mayor, just said earlier, this is one of the biggest decisions council are going to have to make for a very, very long time. So I still haven't decided where to go to today, to be honest, but I just want to say I know Brent Goodwin quoted in the newspaper the other week that some councillors are afraid to make the big decisions. I call you out on that. It's scary, right? But we have to do it, and I think we've all got our big pants on today, but yeah, I'll see how this goes from a voting perspective.
Okay, we have the iwi representative. Oh, sorry, Tom.
Yeah, I'm being a bit of a broken record now, but I just want to reiterate that this is about the models we take to the market to consult on. It's not about deciding the model today. Personally, if you believe it or not, and I haven't decided, I have a list at home of the pros and cons from what I understand of each model. And each of those models have advantages in my view, and they each have disadvantages. I think it's a bit unfair. We know that the iwi value the Y plus T model, and I support the reasons why they value that model. But I still need to know what the community is thinking. And to deny the community one of the three main viable options, to deny them the ability to give us feedback on those three models, for me, is a denial of their ability to be consulted fairly and reasonably. And so for me, it's about consulting. It's not about deciding today. And the community, and it is a very intelligent community, and they might bring insights and thoughts that we haven't even thought of back to the table, which will allow us then to have more information, better information, to make that final decision, which is not our job today. So I guess my key point is, if we value consultation and if we value feedback from our community, let's give them the opportunity to do that on the three viable models that exist.
Thank you, Tom.
Marama, did you want to vote? Okay, so around the models. I'm going to talk about the regional model first, because I was on the AOG for the regional model and the AOG for the local model, or the sub-regional model. In the meetings that I attended in Wellington, very few times was voted up at even mentioned. Very few times. It was almost like we were just taking up a seat in the room, and that was about it. So I don't think to go with a regional model will actually open any extra doors to you. It just cost our people here in the Wairarapa a lot of heartache and a lot of money that will be sunk somewhere else. The consultant said at the very first meeting I sat in, he said, so with the funding it will be split, and there'll be the first tranche will be 40% of the funding will go in to the region. So I questioned him about what he meant by the region. What he actually meant was Wellington Metro. 40% of the upper funds would go straight into Wellington Metro because they have the highest need. So Colin Olds actually backed that up and said, so you were saying that if the regional model goes ahead, then whatever the CCO finds as an urgency first, as a priority, that's where all of the funds will go to actually help them. So then I looked at Masterton and I looked at Carterton, because we have pretty good services. They're not top model, but they're actually better than quite a lot of them around our area. So I looked at us and I thought, that means we'll be right at the bottom of the list. That's what that means. And our people deserve better than that. And all of you sitting at this table know that. They deserve the best. And we here, all of you, have to give them the very best that we can give them. So that's why I ruled out the regional model. I ruled it out for that reason and for the other reason that we are only mana whenua as iwi, Ngāti Kahanunu and Rangitani, of from the Wairarapa all the way to Dannevirke. That's our rohe, and that's where we rule. We don't rule in Ngāti Toa. We have no say there. And Helmut Modlik actually said that on our meeting that we attended just recently. He said, I want you all to make your minds up and come across with us. And I said, well, our iwi won't move because this is not our mana whenua. And then he hit me on the leg and said to me, yeah, I know that. And I said, so we will have as iwi no say over there. And that to me is really important that we have a say as iwi. As we worked through the sub-regional model as an AOG member there, and we looked at the work that Maz, kia ora Maz, and to Robin for the hard work that you've done in pulling all of this together for us, and how lucky are we to have such expert people living in our community doing this for us. How lucky are we? And I don't know what the price is that they've charged at, but I don't think they've charged as much as what the consultants in Wellington charged, I can tell you now. What did we all get? We all got nothing. We got nothing for our participation in the regional model. So at a sub-regional model, we looked at the Wairarapa, we looked at going alone. We were also told at the regional meeting that the minister is favouring councils to get together. That's what he said to our chair, Dame Prendergast. He said, no, I prefer you all to get together, have this discussion. So that's why the sub-regional model will work for us, because we have got together. As an individual council, it might seem a great place to go to for you. And the people of Masterton might say, yes, do it. But I don't want us to hamper their progress or what's available to them just because we've decided that, we're just going to do this alone and that's about it. I think we should just listen to what the Minister has said to Dame Prendergast and actually join together with the other councils. As I said, iwi represent Wairarapa and Tararua, that's our mana whenua. We are not bounded by your TLAs. Our boundary is our iwi boundary, that's what it is. And so anywhere that we can walk in and know that this is ours with you, then why not? This is what we want. So the Wairarapa Tararua sub-regional model is what we are in favour of. As my brother said to one of the councillors at the Combined District Council meeting the other day, he said, if there's one thing we know, we need access to water. We have it here. And alongside iwi, and I think for those who attended that meeting, at the moment, our two iwi sit on $250 million worth of asset and cash. And I said this in this council before when I first sat here, that if we want to play games and play ball with our iwi, we've got to give them a reason to want to play. And involving them in this sub-regional model of Wairarapa and Tararua is a signal to iwi that we want to play. We're serious. This is partnership at its very best, actually. That's what it is. As my final sum up, DIA and the Castalia report for our Wairarapa Tararua was very, very glowing. And I was really pleased to read it, actually. And I thought, yes. And that's, as I said, I go back to, we are very lucky to have the talent that we have that actually pulled out our proposals together. So without any further ado, councillors, yes, it is a huge, huge decision you're going to make. As our former Mayor Lynn Patterson said, the last time was donkeys ago that there was a major change in the number of councils in this country. Today you might be voting on the type of 3 areas of your models, etc., of what to consult on, but really at the end of the day, I believe, and the iwi believe, that the Wairarapa Tararua will be a best model for everybody, not just for iwi, but for everybody living in this region. We just got to as you say, put on our big boy pants and get going with it. Because I tell you, I would hate to get to Bill 3 and he turns around and says, well, we're going to cut it up into tranches and all those that haven't voted on it, you go right to the end of the list. I would hate for that to actually happen. I don't know what's in the bill, but it happened in health. And they said if you don't get, you've got time to get your plans in, that's fine. And then he came out with afterwards, he says, if you don't get it in by this particular time, then guess what? You might not get another crack at the lolly. And I thought, oh, lucky we got ours in. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's your decision, it is not our decision, but we have made the decision. And we would like to actually see this council make the decision that is favourable for all of us, the Wairarapa Tararua model.
Robin?
Yeah, come after that. Tēnā koutou. As a iwi representative, for me it's fair to say that I'm not only here for Masterton, but for our whole region. And I say that because the trust I represent has financial considerations in our district. And if you didn't know, we have 70% of Ngāmi Forest, which means that with JNL, there's always going to be an issue about water and water that they need to function. There are 500 families that were affected by Ngāmi Forest and JNL. Our investment in Ngāmi Forest is $25 million today, and we currently have agreed as a trust to invest $10 million into Masterton Medical Health with their new building. So as a settlement trust, we are looking to invest in our community. I've read these reports as best I can. My opinion is with the Wellington regional model, and I went to the meeting in the South District Wairarapa Council. I arrived late, which gives me the privilege to sit at the back. And when you sit at the back and you watch people's faces when people are presenting to them, you get a feel for what they are listening to. And I can assure you the officers of South District Wairarapa Council and all members of their council did not look very favourably at what they were being presented to by the Wellington model, and they are part of Wellington Water. Another thing is that looking at the Masterton alone model, I believe that it will be up for $11.7 million a year extra funding, and if you divide that by the amount of population in Masterton, which last year was 29,100 persons, it equals $404.48 per person. That's man, woman and child. So that might be a compelling conversation to have. The DIA, as it already stated, had done its analytical guidance, and it actually felt that the model Wairarapa plus Tararua is probably is actually financially sustainable. Now, if you were to go with the regional one, including Wellington, it's stated that there'll be less council oversight. I think the decision you make, you need to, as a council, to ensure that you have oversight over your CCO. Coming from Auckland, we've had CCOs for a number of years, and actually I highly praise Watercare for the way that they've delivered services in Auckland, and that has cost billions of dollars. But I don't think in our region we need to spend billions. I have read in the report that it's about based on $2 a cubic metre of water used, and this is where I love being a plumber. So, if you consider a CCO having an income stream, never mind about what they can borrow, of $2 per cubic metre, to dig up a pavement in Wellington per metre to replace water mains will cost you exponentially more than if you were digging up Featherston, Carterton, Masterton, even Dannevirke. And why is that?
because largely our towns here are flat. Largely they don't have a whole lot of other infrastructure services in the way. There's a whole lot to do with compliance when it comes to being able to deliver a business model. And I think you have the perfect opportunity as a council to help create a CCO that can better deliver services to the communities that you live in. And that is why I personally don't support Wellington. And the other thing I read in that report was that Wellington City Council said that, you know, we'd probably be up for about $2.3 billion, and a review of that said, well, actually, you'll be up for 2.6. And those of us who have read some of those reports know that Wellington City Council's got about $300 million sitting in a drawer somewhere, in a balance sheet that they have yet to bring to the surface. And I don't think Wairarapa, let alone Masterton ratepayers, should be paying for another council's poor decision making on their balance sheet. And that's pretty much all I have to say. One thing about making decisions around the table, if you didn't know it, even at a tribal setting with hapu and that, not everybody agrees. And if you may think that this is a heated conversation, I'd invite you to a marae meeting. You'll know what heated is. But you're charged with making the best decision out of a number of things that are in front of you. Sometimes they're not really the best that you want, but you actually have to make the best decision with what you've got in front of you. And the best decision today is actually not to go with Wellington, with all due respect. This is the opportunity for Wairarapa to take a lead in its own development as a region and not be the last on the cab rank, so to speak, if we were a part of a wider group.
Thank you very much, Rob. Thank you. So, okay, Councillor Nelson.
Thank you. I'd just like to say that I was elected on the General Ward for Masterton, and I'm here to represent the Masterton community. I agree with what you said about the CCO, Robin, for Masterton. I think that would be a terrible idea because of the costs, but those costs aren't for the standalone model in terms of us being in the household about $11 million you just spoke about. No, that's just for the CCO model. And again, I'm here to represent the Masterton community, and I would like the best decision for that community, and I'd like our community to have 3 options to choose from. Thank you.
Right, we're ready to vote for the Councillor Nelson. Councillor Goodwin.
Oh, it's interesting. Most of the discussions have been on the merits and problems with the main models, and I just want to remind people that we've had, a dozen or so people talking about this, and many, I can't criticise them, they have strong views on different models. The reason I want to take the regional model out is there's, 29,000 people out there, and I want to give them a chance to actually engage with us so that in whatever it is, 3 or 4 months' time, we make a decision that is listened to them.
Thank you. Okay, we're ready to vote. The recommendations from 1 to 7 have been moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Johnson.
We'll vote 1 to 4.
Oh, sorry, 1 to...
Put 1 to 4 first.
1 to 4 first.
Karen, do we vote? Are we voting individually on each point?
Well, my suggestion is that we put 1 to 4 first,
Right.
because they are simply noting,
Yeah.
and I think everybody can agree on those, and then put each of the others separately.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll vote 1 to 4. All those in favour of 1 to 4, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. We then go and vote on 5. We agree to exit the Wellington Region Water Services Delivery Joint Arrangements. We've moved and seconded that the same thing, so we just vote on it. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye. This would be better one.
Okay.
I'm going to call the division, by the way.
I'm just confused. Sorry.
We're voting on whether number 5 agrees
So-
to exit Wellington.
That's fine, but Tom's amendment is still...
Well, it lives or dies.
Lives and dies on this, so if we agree to 5, then I'm out of here. If we disagree with 5, we can come back and vote
then-
on
okay.
3 options going
Sorry.
to
Okay,
consultation.
thank you. I'm ready to vote now.
Is that
Sorry,
right?
I was unclear.
You realise the consultation could take till May.
Okay, a show of hands on 5. All those in favour, please say aye. Put your hands up. 3 against.
4.
4.
It is lost. It is lost. Number 6. We keep on going. Number 6. Now that'll be effective, won't it?
Yes.
There you go, Tom's amendment. Sorry, I've lost the resolutions.
Tom?
Sorry?
No, hang on a second. We just got to decide all the terms.
Number 6.
No, we
It
can,
goes ahead anyway, doesn't it?
we can continue with 6.
Aaron, did you vote against the last one?
Yes.
Gary?
We can vote on 6 then. We are to vote on 6.
Just clarification, we're just saying we'll continue to investigate Y plus T model. That's what 6 is saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you putting the motion to vote just on 6? Is that...
Yeah, this is just on 6. All those in favour, raise your hand. Against? Carried. And 7, agrees not to develop a Masterton Water Services Council controlled organisation model for 3 waters. All those in favour of that, raise your right hand. That's to agree to not to develop it. Against? Thank you. So we go back now to...
The matter of clarification around, so with 5 failing, that effectively means that the Wellington regional model will be developed, so similar to what 6, but then it will be, instead of the Wairarapa and Tara or Y plus T, it will be the Wellington regional model. So I think we should add that in just to be clear that we will continue with the Wellington regional model for development for consultation.
So is that essentially, are you saying number 6 is just substitute the regional model for Wairarapa?
That's right. So I think it's better if we have that as another resolution.
I'll leave that.
Additional, not substitute.
Sorry?
It's an
Additional, not
Additional,
substitute.
yeah.
Well, we've already, it doesn't matter, we've already voted on 6.
That's right. So you are
It's already
effectively
there.
continuing. So we can just make that really clear to everybody that we are continuing to develop that for consultation by including that as another resolution.
So, well, is that what is...
So Harriet, did you want to put something
She's
up?
doing it now. Right, there we go. So will that be an additional point?
Can we have that as 8?
We're just going to have a quick adjournment while we get this sorted.
Yes, so I just wanted to, for clarity, make sure that you understood that last decision, which has passed, and that means that we would need to commit to deliver the water service delivery plan, because that is phase 2, between now and the September. So 25. That's right, 25. So we would need to spend the money. That's what's been agreed upon, to be able to deliver 2 plans. One will be potentially the Wairarapa plan, and then the other one would be the Wellington plan 2. So we're up for costs as a result. So roughly the cost would be about 400,000 through that decision. So if we were not sure, there's an ability at the same meeting now to revoke that decision if there was any confusion. But we need 75% of the council table to agree to revoke. Otherwise, it's passed and we continue on.
Just to clarify though, that 400,000 we can loan fund. My understanding is we can loan fund. It becomes part of our water debt, and whichever way we go, it goes with the assets. The water debt is transferred along with the assets to whichever place, whatever we decide. So whilst 400,000 is correct, loan funded and chucked into the debt, and wherever we go, we're handing it on. It's not like we're having to pay all that off.
Yep, so I just wanted to clarify that you understood that it's what was decided. Because it's passed.
We're fine, Kim.
You
know what we chose. I'll just clarify, Councillor Goodwin, that would still be at the agreement of the regional council group. So every council in the Wellington area would need to do their accounting treatment the same if they're all incurring costs and developing the model, that those costs would go with the CCO and the debt that the CCO takes over. And that decision hasn't been made at the moment. So at the moment, we're committing our expenditure without a funding solution to it.
Yes, Councillor Lee.
Just a question around consultation. I understand that it's coming up with the annual plan. Why can we not fast track that consultation and bring it forward? Why does it have to align with the annual plan?
Councillor, so we wanted to, because we would be consulting on the Y+T as well, to align with the other councils so that it all goes roughly at the same time, and so they would be consulting. South Wairarapa, my understanding is that they're consulting on LTP amendment. This would be included within there. We do have other consultations that we need to get on with, and we wanted to, there's quite a few, so part of our consideration was making sure that people were not overloaded all at the same time, because you'll recall we've got the next paper, which is the water metering that we're going out to now. We also have the consolidated bylaw, which is a huge piece of work, and a number of other policies. So we could look at the timing, but we have given this quite close consideration. I think Maz has got something she wants to add here.
Yes, I think just in regard to the consultation, we do have to be cognizant that we will not be driving because we are going to be part of the potential regional group. So all the work around consultation and the timing, etc., will be driven by that project team. So we're at the mercy of however those dates land.
And just to follow up on that, this decision we will need to go back to the Wellington region to confirm, because it has been a collective decision making and direction giving that to proceed with this alongside Y+T and any other model. We would need to hear their views on that. So if there was issues, we would need to report to council on that. I'm just giving you a heads up because we haven't had this discussion with them, but that may be something that we would need to do.
One more question. So this this 400k you referred to, does that get paid up front after today, or if we,
No,
if the
we
public...
get billed for it, but it's a commitment because we're not stepping out of Wellington. We're still continuing on. It means that we go up to the point of creating the water service delivery plan with the Wellington region. And then at the same time, we still need to continue to develop a Wairarapa Tararua plan because our limit of our time is going to be quite small. So immediately, there are some of the...
So my thoughts there, and I understand that the other consultation documents like the meters and the bylaw, I know that they're important, but my initial thought would be fast-tracking the consultation around this huge issue, local water done well, to then obviously get to a better point for us as council to be able to vote on exactly what model we want to go for based on the consultation we receive from public. I would see that as a pretty large part, like bring that forward. That would be my thoughts anyway.
Even if we could bring it forward because of the other Wellington authorities working, we would probably only be able to bring it forward by a matter of weeks, just because of the Christmas and because of all the work that we need to do ahead of that.
And final question. Say, in however many months' time we vote that we're going to go with YT and not regional, so that $400,000 still gets gobbled up, even though we're no longer part of the regional. Surely there must be some, that seems like daylight robbery. It is daylight robbery.
No, it's gone.
We're in or we're out.
And yeah, just to that point, still, they have started building their price for the next phases, which actually excludes any of the local councils, but they will be wanting to lock that funding in because they need to secure their own resources and firm up contracts and engagements. And they did indicate a little bit earlier on that if you commit to a certain stage and you're in it all the way, or if you withdraw it, your funds are still in there because they make financial commitments to others.
My concern, and I might need Joe to back me up on this, was that we were told the other day at the meeting, as I said at the stage, we're still in with the regional plan. Right. Campbell Barry came up the other day and he stood up and Anita Baker backed him and said that anybody that's in and pulls out and wants to try to get back in again, they're in big trouble. I'm not too sure how we're going to venture getting out of it once we're in and what it's going to cost us. You've mentioned the figure, but it might be more because if you read through it further on, it says that the IT is going to cost 33 and everybody that's in will be paying a portion of that. I was talking to someone just before and they said the IT will be much more than that. And as we stand at the moment, if we stay in there, we're going to be up for that. Am I correct, Joe?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so if that's the case then the government set us up to fail regardless, because if we choose to consult on the regional and the YT or we don't, regardless, consulting on the regional or Y plus T is costing us, I feel like we've just been set up to fail. So realistically, why are we consulting at all if it's going to cost us so much? It just seems ridiculous to me. You're telling me that all we want to do is consult to our public. We just want to ask them, hey guys, these are some options. Which ones do you guys prefer? That's what we're elected to do, right? Yep. Yeah, so why on earth why is going out to consultation on 3 options, YT, enhanced model and bloody regional, costing us $400,000? That's just blind, it's daylight robbery, and we've been set up as councillors to fail if we can't even consult at the very beginning. To our people, it's wrong. Sorry, I find it absolute rubbish.
We don't usually spend this much time debating after we've made a decision either.
We haven't made a decision yet, we've got to move and second.
No, it's simply we had questions. I thought I'd just clarify that you're aware of the decision. We're not, officers are saying, crack on if that's the case. If you're aware of it, we don't need any further debate.
Very aware.
If you feel misled in any way, shape or form, then we can revoke that most recent resolution up there on the agreement. The 75% around the table agree that we want that revoked. If that's not the case, we continue on. We don't need to talk anymore on it.
No, we don't. We've made the decision. I've never seen this happen before with any other decision we've made.
Can I just ask one question?
This is the biggest one. Exactly.
Councillor Bailey?
Exactly.
So 400,000 is the minimum, or is it the maximum?
To achieve phase 2 in both the YT and the Wellington, it's 400,000. So it would be less than that to do the YT and or either either C.
And I think it would be helpful to understand that it is an estimate. So originally with the regional model, we were given a price, and as you expect, things evolve, and so you get variations, and undoubtedly the price stretches with that.
Just further clarification on that, and my memory is not perfect, but it was maybe probably we estimate about 125k on the regional model and 275 on the W plus T and the Go Alone. Is that? Yeah. So by adding I would just hate people to think that by including the regional model, it's costing 400,000. It's adding approximately 125,000 to a $275,000.
No, they're two separate pieces of work.
Otherwise.
It's adding 275.
They're two separate pieces of work, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll have separate consultants doing both work.
So it's 378 for the Wellington, and it's whatever for the Wairarapa plus T.
Our share for the Y plus T will be around 80k.
Yeah.
The other question I've got is if Kapiti and Horowhenua drop out tomorrow...
What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing?
I'm trying to find out how... I'm going to ask the question, thank you. I'm going to ask, what does that mean to the cost? Because if there's less councils in there.
Yes, the cost increases.
Yeah, thank you. Just as long as we're all clear, that's what you're putting the people up for, right?
No, sorry, I'm just trying to find the report. That information's incorrect. I had it that Y plus T was the 378 for phase 2, and entering into the Wellington model was around 80 to 120k extra. I'm just trying to find the page. Sorry.
I've got the page. It's page 19.
Can you read that out?
Phase 2 Wellington Regional is 84 to 140k.
Wellington Regional.
Yeah. Wairarapa plus T phase 2 is 378k.
Yep. Okay. And the difference is because they don't know in the regional if there's only 5 people in it, it's obviously going to be nearer the 140k.
So it's an extra, yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
I know, I think it's important to have those figures correct. Okay.
Clarity around the figure?
It's 84 to 140k for the Wellington phase 2.
Presuming all 10 councils.
No, and it's 378 for the Wairarapa plus T phase 2. And it's on page, what did I say?
Page 19.
19.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have to ask the question: is there any move to revoke this thing? Anybody? You need 75% to do that.
I'd like to.
Yeah, I'd like to. Well,
No, the people who voted for
we haven't got 75%, so the motion stands.
Did you want to put the motion to revoke? Just
You need to put a motion for it.
It's going to fail. So
Well, do we have a clear indication that
We have a
it's going to fail?
clear indication.
Okay, so the motion stands.
So can we add on, sorry Chair, can we add on 8 just as a matter of clarification then to 5?
Okay, Tom, you'll happy? You move that, Tom. You'll be happy with that?
There is a
preference. Okay.
So we have a mover and a second.
You move and second that?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, we're on to the next one.
Would you,
Can we have a toilet break?
hey Gary, you didn't go against though, because we know some people don't support that.
Yeah, I said, no, well, it did say against, just to carry. Do you want to?
Pardon? Yeah, it's not unanimous.
No, Harriet wasn't clear.
We didn't actually vote.